The encounter in the ruins. The ruined city was silent, but it was not the silence of peace. It was heavy, broken by the faint crackle of fire and the distant echo of falling stones. The war had ended here weeks ago, but the ground still carried the smell of smoke, blood, and dust. A lone human soldier walked through the shattered streets, his boots crunching on broken glass and pieces of steel. His name was Daniel. He carried his rifle close, his eyes scanning every shadow. Daniel had been separated from his unit. Radio signals were dead, maps were useless. He was a stranger in this alien world, walking through ruins that once belonged to a people who now hated the very sight of humans. Every step he took could mean danger. He was trained to fight, but the loneliness in this dead place pressed down on him harder than any battle. As he turned into a narrow street, he froze. A small sound reached his ears. Not the hiss of wind, not the crack of falling rubble, but something softer. A whimper. A child's voice. His heart tightened. Slowly, carefully, Daniel raised his weapon and stepped closer. From behind the skeleton of a fallen wall, a pair of glowing eyes stared back at him. The figure was small, thin, covered in dust. It was an alien child, a little girl with pale green skin, large dark eyes and tangled hair that shimmered faintly under the fading sunlight. Her clothes were torn, her tiny hands clutching a broken piece of metal as if it could protect her. She did not run. She did not scream. Instead, she whispered, her voice trembling but clear enough for him to hear. "Are you here to harm our mom as well? She's dying." The words struck Daniel like a blade. For a moment, he could not move. He had expected fear, hatred, or maybe an ambush. But the small girl's question was different. It was not the cry of an enemy. It was a plea. Daniel lowered his weapon slightly but did not let it go. I am not here to hurt you," he said, his voice careful, steady. "Where is your mother?" The girl's lips trembled. She looked at him as though searching for truth in his face. Then she pointed with a shaking hand toward the shadow of a half-collapsed building. Daniel followed her gesture, his heart thumping. He knew he should not. He knew this could be a trap. Many soldiers had died because they trusted too easily. But something in the girl's eyes chained his feet and pulled him forward. The girl stepped out from behind the wall, moving with hesitant, tired steps. She was no older than 8 or 9, though war and hunger had carved deeper lines in her face. She walked in front of him as if daring him to follow. Daniel kept his distance, his weapon lowered but ready. Every corner of the ruined street felt like it was watching him, waiting. When they reached the building, the smell of sickness hit him. Inside, lying on the cold ground, was an alien woman. Her skin, once a strong shade of emerald, had turned pale and gray. Her chest rose and fell weakly. Wounds covered her body. Burns, cuts, and something darker, something cruel. It was not just war. These were wounds of torture. The child knelt beside her mother and touched her arm gently. "She cannot move, please. Don't hurt her." Daniel swallowed hard. His training screamed inside his head. "Do not interfere. They are the enemy. Leave them." But another voice, quieter but stronger, rose inside him. "This is not an enemy. This is a family trying to survive." The alien woman opened her eyes slightly. They were dull, filled with pain. Yet when they fell upon Daniel, they widened in fear. She tried to speak, but her voice cracked into silence. Her daughter whispered to her, "He's not going to hurt us, Mama. I think he wants to help." Daniel crouched down slowly, keeping his rifle to his side. "I have medical supplies," he said softly. "I can try to stop the bleeding. But you must trust me." The girl looked at him with eyes that were too old for her small face. She nodded once. Daniel opened his pack, pulling out bandages, a small vial of antiseptic, and water. His hands moved with practiced care, cleaning the wounds, wrapping them tightly. The alien woman flinched but did not push him away. The little girl watched closely, her small fingers clinging to her mother's hand. Every second, Daniel's mind raced. If his commanders knew what he was doing, they would call him a traitor. If the enemy found him here, they would kill him without hesitation. And yet here he was, kneeling beside a dying alien, guided by the desperate words of her child. Outside, the ruined city groaned under the weight of silence. Somewhere in the distance, the wind carried the faint echo of marching boots. Daniel froze for a moment, his head snapping up. Were they human soldiers? Alien hunters? He could not tell. The girl whispered again, almost like a ghost. "Please, save her. You're the only one left who can." Daniel's breath came slow and heavy. His hands worked faster, his mind torn between duty and humanity. He did not know what tomorrow would bring, but one thing was certain. This moment, this encounter would change everything. And in the ruins of war, trust had been born where none should have existed. The dying mother Daniel had treated many wounds in his life, but nothing felt like this. Each cut on the alien woman's body told a story of pain, not just from battle but from cruelty. Her skin was cracked, burned in places where fire or chemicals had been used. Her breathing was shallow, her chest rising with effort as though every breath was her last. The little alien girl never moved far from her mother's side. Her wide dark eyes followed every motion of Daniel's hands. She seemed ready to scream if he made one wrong move. Her trust was fragile, hanging by a single thread. Daniel knew that if he lost that trust, this moment would collapse into fear and chaos. The woman groaned softly, her lips trying to form words. Daniel leaned closer. Her language was strange, filled with sharp sounds and soft clicks. But some words broke through in the human tongue. No more pain, she whispered, as if expecting his touch to bring torture again. Daniel spoke gently. I am not here to hurt you. I'm trying to save you. The girl squeezed her mother's hand and nodded. He's different, Mama. He's not like the others. The others. The word stabbed into Daniel's mind. What others? Humans? Soldiers from his side? Or alien enemies who used humans as an excuse for cruelty? The thought made his stomach twist. He poured water carefully over the burns, cleaning away the dirt. The woman flinched, but when the cool water soothed the raw flesh, her breathing steadied slightly. Daniel wrapped her arm in bandages, his movements steady and careful. You will need food, medicine, a safe place, Daniel said mostly to himself, though the girl heard him. I can't do everything here. The girl tilted her head. You are a soldier. Soldiers have strong medicine. Don't you? Daniel hesitated. He had some supplies, painkillers, a few antibiotics, basic field bandages, but not enough to heal someone so close to death. He knew that. And yet, looking into the child's hopeful eyes, he could not bring himself to say it aloud. Maybe enough to help her stand again, he answered softly. The girl nodded, clinging to his words as though they were light in endless darkness. Outside the broken building, the wind moaned. Daniel's senses stayed sharp. He kept glancing at the entrance, half expecting an ambush. But no one came. Only the silence of the ruined city pressed in on them. The woman's voice rose again, weak but urgent. Why, help? She asked. Her eyes, clouded with pain, searched Daniel's face. Human. Soldier, why? Daniel paused. Why indeed? The war had burned every lesson into him. Do not trust aliens, they are dangerous, they will betray you. But sitting here facing a dying mother and her child, those lessons seemed hollow. Because you're alive, he said finally. Because no one deserves to die like this, not you. Not your child. The alien woman blinked slowly, her eyes filling with moisture. She squeezed her daughter's hand, whispering in her own tongue. The child gave a small, trembling smile. Daniel's hands kept working, but his mind was restless. What if his own people found out? Helping an alien, an enemy, was considered betrayal. He could be court-martialed, even executed. But leaving them here, he couldn't imagine walking away. The girl suddenly tugged his sleeve. Do you hear that? She whispered. Daniel froze. He tilted his head. At first, nothing. Then a faint metallic scrape like steel against stone. It came from somewhere deeper in the ruins. His grip tightened on his rifle. He moved toward the doorway, peering out into the street. Empty. But the sound echoed again. Closer this time. The girl clung to her mother and whispered, They are searching. They always come back. Daniel's chest grew tight. Whoever they were, the girl feared them more than him. That meant danger was near. He hurried back to the woman and the child. We can't stay here, he said firmly. If someone comes, I can't protect you in this place. The girl's eyes widened. But Mama can't walk. Daniel looked at the woman. Her strength was nearly gone. She could not even lift herself. Carrying her would slow them down, make them easy targets. Logic screamed at him to abandon them. Survival demanded it. But the child's trembling voice cut through his thoughts. Please don't leave us. Everyone leaves. The weight of her words settled on him, heavier than any battlefield order. Daniel swallowed hard. Then I'll carry her, he said. We moved together. The girl's eyes widened in shock. You would? Yes, he said simply. I will. He adjusted his gear, set his rifle across his back, and bent down to lift the alien woman carefully into his arms. She was light, too light, a sign of long hunger and weakness. She groaned softly but did not resist. The girl walked beside him, small feet crunching on the broken floor. She looked up at him again and whispered, almost to herself, "Maybe not all humans are monsters." Daniel said nothing. He just tightened his hold on the fragile body in his arms and stepped out into the dying light of the ruined city, knowing danger lurked behind every corner. And in his heart, one question grew louder than all others. Had he just chosen the path that would make him savior? Or traitor? The hidden attackers, the ruined city stretched endlessly ahead of Daniel as he carried the alien woman in his arms. Every step was heavy, not because of her weight, but because of the decision he had made. His training told him he was committing treason, but his heart told him he was doing the only thing that was right. The little alien girl walked beside him, her bare feet crunching over stone and ash. She held onto the corner of his torn jacket as though it was a rope keeping her from drowning. Her eyes scanned the ruins nervously, watching the shadows, listening to sounds that Daniel's human ears almost missed. "Keep close," Daniel whispered. His voice was calm, but his mind was sharp, alert. He could feel eyes in the dark, something moving just out of sight. The city had been destroyed in the war, yet it was not empty. Sometimes silence was not peace, it was a trap waiting to close. As they reached a wide street filled with collapsed towers, the girl froze. Her small hand tugged on his jacket. "Wait," she whispered. "Do you hear that?" Daniel stopped. His boots rested against gravel, his ears straining. At first, only the wind sighed between broken walls. Then faintly came the low growl of something alive. Not human, not machine, something else. He set the alien woman down gently behind a piece of broken stone, motioning for the girl to crouch with her. His rifle was in his hands again, his body tense. From the shadows of the ruins, shapes began to move. First one, then two, then more. They were not soldiers. They were alien scavengers, tall and thin, with glowing red eyes and sharp, jagged weapons. Their skin looked scorched, their armor pieced together from scraps. They were hunters preying on the weak who remained after the war. The girl gasped softly. "Them," she whispered with terror. "They always come back." Daniel narrowed his eyes. These were the ones who had tortured her mother. He could see the cruel marks of their blades and burns reflected in their twisted smiles. There were 5 of them. They moved like wolves, circling slowly, sniffing the air. One of them pointed a long blade toward Daniel and hissed in their alien tongue. The sound was sharp, mocking. Daniel raised his rifle. "Stay behind cover," he whispered to the child without looking back. The scavengers laughed, a dry, cruel sound. They had seen humans before. They thought he was just another lost soldier, alone and easy prey. But they didn't know Daniel. He had survived battles far worse than this. The first attacker lunged forward, swinging his blade. Daniel fired, the sharp crack echoing across the ruins. The alien dropped instantly, but the others spread out, moving faster, smarter. They knew how to fight. The girl cried out as one of the hunters moved toward her and her mother. Daniel spun, firing again, forcing the scavenger back. He stepped in front of them, his body a shield. Bullets whizzed, blades clashed, the air filled with smoke and dust. Daniel fought with precision, his training guiding his every move. 2 more scavengers fell, but one leapt onto him, knocking him to the ground. The girl screamed, grabbing a broken pipe from the ground and swinging it wildly. The scavenger snarled and turned on her, but Daniel rolled, grabbing his knife and driving it deep into the creature's chest. Blood sprayed. The scavenger collapsed. Daniel pulled himself up, his breath harsh, sweat dripping down his face. Only one enemy remained. The leader, taller, stronger, with armor of black metal and scars running across his face. The leader pointed at Daniel with a jagged spear. His voice was low and cruel. "Human, you should not protect them. They are not your kind." Daniel's grip tightened on his rifle. "And what kind are you? Monsters who prey on children?" The leader roared and charged. The clash was brutal. Daniel fired, but the leader deflected the shots with his spear's shield. They slammed into each other, weapon against weapon, strength against strength. The fight was desperate, loud, and raw. The alien girl watched with wide, terrified eyes. Her mother weakly tried to lift her head, whispering words Daniel could not hear. With a final surge of strength, Daniel twisted, slamming the butt of his rifle into the leader's jaw, then fired point-blank into his chest. The roar ended in silence. The leader collapsed onto the rubble, lifeless. The ruins fell quiet again. Smoke drifted through the air. Daniel stood panting, his rifle still raised, scanning for more. But none came. The girl rushed to his side, clutching his arm. Her small hands trembled, but her eyes shone with something new. Not fear, but hope. "You saved us," she whispered. Daniel looked at her, then at her dying mother. His chest felt heavy. This was not the end. This was only the beginning. He crouched beside them again, his voice low and steady. "They'll be back. We can't stay here. If you want your mother to live, we have to move. Now." The girl nodded, tears running down her dusty cheeks. "We'll follow you." Daniel lifted the mother once more, his muscles aching but his resolve firm. He looked into the broken streets ahead, knowing more dangers waited in the shadows, and yet something inside him whispered that this fight was no longer about survival alone. It was about protecting the innocent no matter the cost. The ruins had seen blood, cruelty, and betrayal, but in that moment they had also seen something else, humanity. A mother's secret. The night settled heavy over the ruined city. Faint stars glimmered between broken towers, their light weak against the darkness. Daniel had found a hidden shelter in what once might have been a school basement. The air was thick with dust, but it was safer than the open streets. He laid the alien mother gently on a blanket of old cloth he had scavenged. Her breaths came shallow, each one like a battle. The little girl sat close beside her, holding her mother's hand tightly, refusing to let go. Daniel checked the bandages again. They were holding, but infection was a danger. His supplies were running low. He needed more medicine, food, clean water, things he could not easily find in these ruins. But what pressed harder on him than the shortage of supplies was the weight of the questions piling in his mind. Who had hurt them? Who were those scavengers? And why did the little girl speak as if humans had harmed her family before? The alien mother stirred, her weak voice breaking the silence. "Human," she whispered, her eyes opening slightly. Daniel leaned closer. "I'm here. Save your strength." She coughed, a thin sound, and shook her head weakly. "No time, must tell you." Daniel frowned. "Tell me what?" Her eyes dim but burning with something deeper fixed on him. "The war. It is not what you think. They lied to you, lied to us." Daniel's chest tightened. "Who lied?" The little girl looked between them, her eyes wide. She whispered, "Mama, don't. It will hurt you." The woman squeezed her daughter's hand faintly, then continued, "Our people were not always your enemy. Long ago, humans and my kind. We traded, we lived in peace. But then a man rose among your leaders and a warlord among ours. They wanted power. They spread lies. They told us humans would destroy us. They told you aliens would enslave you." Her voice cracked, but Daniel could hear the truth in it. "They wanted war," she breathed. "So they created it. They burned villages. They killed families. And they said the humans did it. But many times it was not you. It was our own kind, working for the warlord." Daniel felt the air grow cold. His grip on his rifle tightened. Could it be true? All his life he had been taught the aliens were brutal, merciless enemies to humanity itself. Every soldier he fought beside believed it. And yet here was a dying mother saying humans were not the only ones responsible. "Why are you telling me this?" Daniel asked quietly. The woman's eyes glistened. "Because you saved us. You deserve to know. My husband. He was part of the resistance. He discovered the truth, the warlord's cruelty, the lies. But they caught him. They burned him alive." Her voice shook with pain. "They left me and my daughter to suffer. They wanted us to die slowly." The little girl pressed her face into her mother's arm, silent tears streaking her cheeks. Daniel's jaw clenched. He could almost see it. The false banners, the staged massacres, the lies spread across both sides until hatred became truth. His entire purpose as a soldier now felt hollow. Was he just a pawn in someone else's game? The mother's voice grew softer, fading. "If you live, if you survive, you must tell your people. This war is not what it seems. Do not let the lies consume both worlds." Daniel sat in silence, his heart heavy. He had seen corruption in his own army before. Leaders making choices that sacrificed soldiers for strategy. But he had never imagined the entire war might be built on lies. The girl looked up at him, her eyes pleading. "Will you protect us? Even after knowing?" Daniel hesitated. The soldier in him screamed no. Protecting them meant betrayal, but the man in him, the part that had looked into innocent eyes, knew the answer. Yes, he said firmly. I'll protect you. No matter what. The girl's lips trembled, but she nodded, clutching his sleeve. Suddenly, the ground above them shook. Dust rained from the ceiling. The faint sound of boots and engines rumbled in the distance. Daniel's instincts sharpened instantly. Soldiers, he muttered. But were they human or the warlord's men? The mother gripped his wrist weakly. You must go. If they find us, they'll kill you for helping us, and they'll finish us. Daniel shook his head. I won't leave you. The girl's eyes filled with fear. If they are humans, they will take you away. If they are from the warlord, they will kill us all. The pounding above grew louder. Whoever it was, they were close. Daniel loaded his rifle again, his mind torn between choices. To fight was madness. To run was nearly impossible with the mother so weak. But to stay meant discovery. He turned to them both, his face set with resolve. Whatever happens, stay behind me. The mother whispered one final time, her voice like wind slipping through broken glass. Remember the truth. Don't let it die with me. Daniel nodded silently. He didn't know how long he could keep them safe. But he knew one thing. The secret she had given him could change everything. And outside, in the ruins above, shadows were moving closer. The escape plan, the basement walls trembled again. Dust fell like rain from the cracked ceiling, and the faint rumble of boots echoed above. Daniel's grip on his rifle tightened. He didn't need to see them to know. They were being hunted. The little alien girl pressed close to her mother, her small frame trembling. They are here, she whispered, her voice sharp with fear. Daniel crouched down beside her. His face was calm, but his mind was racing. If it was his own unit searching, they would see him carrying an alien woman and call him a traitor. If it was the warlord's men, they would slaughter them all without hesitation. Either way, staying here was death. He looked into the girl's wide eyes. We can't stay, he said. We move now. But Mama, her voice cracked, her gaze dropping to the woman lying weak and pale on the floor. Daniel turned to the mother. She was barely conscious, her breath shallow, but her eyes fluttered open at his voice. He spoke softly, firmly, as if trying to will strength into her. I will carry you. We'll make it. The woman's lips parted in protest, but no words came. She was too weak to fight his decision. Daniel shifted his gear quickly, strapping his rifle across his back and tightening his pack. He slid his arms beneath the alien woman's fragile body and lifted her. She was feather light, far too light for an adult, her strength eaten away by wounds and hunger. Stay close to me, Daniel told the girl. Don't wander no matter what. The girl nodded quickly, wiping her tears with the back of her hand. She grabbed his jacket again, her tiny fingers clinging with desperate trust. Daniel moved to the basement door, listening carefully. The boots above had spread out. Voices echoed faintly, alien words mixed with laughter. They were not human soldiers. His jaw clenched. Warlord's men, good. That meant no one would report him to his commanders. But it also meant they were more ruthless than anyone else. He pushed the basement door open slowly, the hinges groaning softly. The ruined hallway outside was dark, lit only by the weak glow of distant fires. Daniel led them forward, his steps light, careful, listening for every sound. The little girl walked like a shadow, quiet and fast, though fear shook her small body. She kept glancing back, making sure no one followed. Daniel noticed her instincts. She had survived long enough to sense danger before it arrived. As they moved deeper into the ruins, Daniel scanned for shelter. The city was a maze of collapsed buildings and shattered streets. He remembered seeing a drainage tunnel earlier, half hidden under rubble. If they could reach it, they might escape the search patrol, but getting there would not be easy. They turned into a wide street, and Daniel stopped cold. Ahead, two scavenger soldiers stood near a burning barrel, their weapons slung casually but their eyes sharp. They were blocking the path. Daniel cursed silently. He set the alien woman down gently behind a broken wall and crouched beside the girl. Listen carefully, he whispered. I need you to stay here with your mother. Don't make a sound. If they come close, hide. I'll handle them. The girl's eyes widened. But what if they hurt you? Daniel gave her a quick, grim smile. Then I'll hurt them first. She wanted to argue, but the determination in his eyes silenced her. She nodded reluctantly. Daniel crept forward, his rifle raised. The night air was cold, filled with smoke. The soldiers laughed to each other, their voices sharp. They didn't notice him until it was too late. 2 quick shots. Both dropped silently, their laughter cut short. Daniel hurried back to the girl and her mother. "It's clear. We move now." He lifted the woman again and pushed forward. The girl followed, her steps light but fast. Minutes stretched into hours as they moved through the dead city. Every shadow felt alive, every corner held danger. Twice they had to hide as patrols passed by, Daniel crouching low with the alien woman in his arms while the girl pressed against his side, holding her breath. Finally, they reached the tunnel entrance. It was half collapsed, hidden beneath rubble but large enough to crawl through. Daniel set the woman down carefully and began pulling away stones until the opening was wide enough. The girl looked at him nervously. "Where does it go?" "Out of the city," Daniel said. "It's our best chance." The girl nodded and crawled in first. Daniel followed, carrying her mother carefully. The air inside was damp and smelled of rust, but it was safer than the streets. For a time, silence ruled, broken only by the sound of dripping water and their soft movements. Daniel's shoulders ached, his muscles burned, but he did not stop. Every step forward meant hope. Then faintly the sound returned. Voices echoing down the tunnel. The warlord's men had found the entrance. Daniel's heart pounded. He turned to the girl. "Run, take your mother and keep moving. I'll hold them off," her eyes filled with fear. "No, you can't stay behind." Daniel gritted his teeth. He knew she was right. If he stayed, they might never see him again. But if he went with them, the enemy would catch up. The alien woman stirred weakly in his arms, whispering something in her own language. The girl listened, then looked at him with tears streaming down her face. "She says, 'Don't die for us. Live with us.'" Daniel felt a surge of emotion. He wasn't just protecting them anymore. They were protecting him too, with trust stronger than any weapon. He nodded once, firm. Then we all run, together. With renewed strength, Daniel lifted the woman higher, and the 3 of them pushed deeper into the tunnel as the echoes of pursuit grew louder behind them. The escape had begun, but the hunters were not far. The final betrayal, the tunnel seemed endless, a dark throat swallowing them whole. Water dripped steadily from cracks in the walls, echoing like footsteps. Daniel moved forward with the alien woman in his arms, her body light as a shadow, while the little girl followed close, clutching his jacket. Behind them, faint voices still chased. The warlord's men were searching the tunnels. Their cruel laughter echoed faintly, sometimes near, sometimes far. Each sound made Daniel's pulse race faster. Finally, after what felt like hours, they reached an iron grate. Daniel pushed it open carefully, the metal groaning as if it had not been touched in years. They emerged into the outskirts of the city, where ruined factories and broken towers stood like skeletons under the pale moonlight. The girl gasped softly. "We are outside." Daniel set her mother down gently against a broken wall. He crouched, scanning the horizon. The air was clearer here, but danger was not gone. Patrols could still be near. He spoke quickly. "We need a safe house. Somewhere to hide until morning." The girl pointed weakly to the north. "There is a place. An old shelter. My father used it once." Daniel nodded. "Lead the way." They moved quietly, the girl guiding them through rubble and broken streets. At last they reached a crumbling building half hidden under vines and stone. Daniel pushed the door open, his rifle ready. Inside was empty, dust, shadows, and silence. It would do. He placed the alien woman on an old cot and checked her wounds again. She was weaker than ever, but alive. The girl curled beside her, exhaustion pulling her eyes closed. Daniel finally allowed himself a breath. For the first time in hours, they were safe. Or so he thought. It happened near dawn. The sound of boots returned, heavier this time, disciplined. Not scavengers, soldiers. Daniel froze as a beam of light cut through the cracks of the door. He recognized the voices instantly. Human, his own unit. His chest tightened. If they saw him here, protecting an alien woman and child, carrying her wounds as if she were family, they would not understand. To them, this was treason. The door burst open. 3 human soldiers stormed inside, rifles raised. Their armor bore the insignia of Daniel's battalion. "Daniel?" One of them barked. "What in hell are you doing here?" Daniel rose slowly, his rifle still slung across his back. "Lower your guns," he said firmly. "They're not a threat. The other soldier's eyes widened as he saw the aliens. Not a threat? You're protecting them? Have you lost your mind? The girl clung to her mother, her eyes terrified. Daniel stepped in front of them, his hand outstretched. They're innocent. She's dying. She needs help, the first soldier snarled. Innocent? These things killed our brothers. You're fraternizing with the enemy. One of them raised his weapon toward the alien woman. The girl let out a cry, clutching her mother tighter. Daniel's instincts exploded. In one motion, he drew his rifle and aimed it squarely at his fellow soldier. Put it down, he growled. The room froze. Tension thickened like a knife's edge. You're pointing your weapon at your own men, one of them said slowly. That's betrayal, Daniel, treason. Daniel's voice was steady, but his heart thundered. And what do you call it when we kill children? When we let lies guide us? This isn't war, it's slaughter. His comrades exchanged glances. Their faces hardened. One spat on the ground. Command will hear of this. You've chosen your side. The alien mother, weak but awake, whispered in her own tongue. The girl translated with a trembling voice. She says, they will never understand. Only you can choose. Daniel's chest felt heavy. His whole life he had followed orders, trusted the chain of command. But now his loyalty was split in two. To his people or to his humanity. The soldier nearest him sneered and took a step closer, rifle still aimed. Last chance, Daniel. Step away from them, or we put you down with the rest of the filth. For a heartbeat, silence reigned. Daniel's finger rested on the trigger. His comrades, men he had trained and bled with, stared back at him with cold eyes. Behind him, a little girl clung to her dying mother, whispering prayers he could not understand. The weight of choice crushed him. But in that moment, the answer became clear. He turned slightly, shielding the aliens with his body. His voice rang like steel. If protecting the innocent makes me a traitor, then so be it. The soldiers cursed, raising their weapons. Daniel fired first. The room erupted in chaos. Gunfire, shouting, the crash of stone. Bullets tore into walls. Daniel moved with precision, his training guiding him. One soldier dropped, another fell back wounded. But the last one stayed standing, rage twisting his face. You've damned yourself, Daniel, he shouted, firing wildly. A bullet grazed Daniel's shoulder, blood soaking his sleeve. Pain seared, but he held firm. He fired back and the soldier collapsed. Silence returned. Smoke filled the room. Daniel stood panting, his shoulder bleeding, his chest heavy with the weight of what he had just done. He looked at the bodies of his fallen comrades. Men who had once called him brother. Now they were gone by his hand. The little girl peeked from behind him, her eyes wide, her lips trembling. She whispered, "You chose us." Daniel's gaze softened. "Yes," he said, his voice rough but certain. "I chose you." The alien mother's hand reached weakly toward him. He took it gently, her skin cold but alive. She whispered something faint, and the girl translated. She says, "You are not our enemy. You are our hope." Daniel swallowed hard. For the first time, he realized the full weight of what he had done. He was no longer a soldier of his unit. He was something else. Something new. But outside, the city was still alive with enemies, both human and alien. And word of his betrayal would spread. The final war had just begun, and Daniel knew there was no turning back. The last stand. The broken shelter was silent except for Daniel's heavy breathing. Smoke drifted in the air, mixing with the sharp scent of blood. His shoulder burned from the bullet wound, but he ignored the pain. 3 of his own comrades lay on the ground, lifeless. The choice he had made could never be undone. The little alien girl clung to her mother, her wide eyes fixed on Daniel. She had seen him fight, not as an enemy, but as a shield. Her mother, weak and pale, whispered faintly, her voice almost gone. The girl translated with trembling lips. She says, "You are bound to us now, by blood, by choice." Daniel closed his eyes for a moment. Bound. The word echoed inside him. He had once been bound by orders, duty, the command of his superiors. Now he was bound by something stronger, trust. But there was no time to reflect. Outside, the rumble of engines shook the air. He could hear the metallic grind of armored vehicles, the bark of voices, the pounding of boots. Reinforcements. His unit must have sent word before dying. More soldiers were coming. Daniel's mind raced. They could not run far. The mother was too weak, the girl too small. The tunnels were behind them, but crawling back would trap them. That left only one choice: fight here, hold the line, no matter the cost. He reloaded his rifle with shaking hands, blood smearing the weapon. He pulled out his last 2 grenades, setting them within reach. His training told him this was suicide. His heart told him it was necessary. The little girl's voice broke through his thoughts. "You can't fight them all." Daniel crouched in front of her, meeting her eyes. "Maybe not, but I can buy you time, enough for you and your mother to live." Tears welled in her eyes. "You'll die." Daniel gave a small smile. "Everyone dies, but not everyone chooses how. Tonight, I choose to fight for something that matters." The girl bit her lip, her small fists trembling. Then, with a sudden strength, she said, "Then I will fight too." Daniel shook his head firmly. "No, your fight is to live. Protect your mother. That is your duty now." She lowered her gaze but nodded, clutching her mother tighter. The first blast shook the walls as soldiers stormed the ruins. Human voices shouted orders, boots thundered against the stone. Daniel took position by the doorway, his rifle ready. Shadows moved outside, flashlights cutting across the dark. He exhaled once, steadying himself. Then he fired. Bullets ripped through the entrance, striking the first wave of soldiers. Shouts rose in anger, gunfire answering him. The shelter roared with violence. Daniel fought with the precision of a man who had nothing left to lose. Each shot dropped another soldier, each movement fueled by raw resolve. But more kept coming. Grenades rolled in. Daniel kicked one back before it exploded, the blast rattling the floor. He threw his own grenades, the room shaking with thunder, the air thick with dust and smoke. Still they advanced. A bullet struck his leg, sending pain searing through him. He stumbled but forced himself back up. Another grazed his arm, tearing through his sleeve. His body screamed in agony, but his will was iron. Through the chaos he heard the little girl sobbing, praying in her alien tongue. Her voice was fragile, yet it gave him strength. The soldiers shouted over the noise. "Surrender, Daniel. You can still live." Daniel's answer was a roar of gunfire. Minutes bled into eternity. His rifle clicked empty. He drew his sidearm, firing until it too was dry. He grabbed a fallen soldier's weapon and kept going. Every breath, every heartbeat was borrowed time. At last silence fell. The smoke cleared slowly. Bodies lay strewn across the entrance, but more shadows moved outside. They were not finished. Daniel leaned against the wall, his body broken, his vision blurring. His chest rose with effort, blood dripping from too many wounds to count. The girl crawled to him, her face streaked with tears. "Don't leave us," she whispered. Daniel forced a smile, his hand resting gently on her shoulder. "I'm not leaving. Not until you're safe." Outside, the rumble of another vehicle grew louder. He knew what it meant, more soldiers, heavier weapons. He had nothing left, but then a new sound split the air. A roar, not human. Alien fighters, sleek and silver, soared overhead. Bright beams lit up the night as they fired upon the soldiers below. The ground shook as explosions ripped through the streets. The girl gasped. "Our people." They came back. Daniel blinked through the haze. The alien resistance had returned, drawn by the fight, perhaps by fate itself. The soldiers outside scattered, crushed under the sudden attack. The girl turned to him, her small hand gripping his tightly. "You saved us long enough. Now they will save you." Daniel tried to laugh, but it came out as a cough. "Maybe, maybe not. But you'll live. That's enough." The alien mother opened her eyes weakly, her lips moving in a faint whisper. The girl leaned close, then translated with a trembling smile. "She says you are one of us now. Not human, not alien, family." Daniel's vision darkened, but he held on to that word. Family. It was worth more than medals, more than orders, more than any war. As the alien resistance stormed the ruins and pulled the survivors to safety, Daniel closed his eyes, knowing his last stand had meant something. And somewhere deep in the ruins, where lies and hatred had once ruled, a single truth now stood clear. Humanity was not in race or blood. It was in choice.